The clumsy maid bathed the Mafia boss's most feared dog, and by sunset the animal refused to leave her side. Emma Carter had been working at Dominic Russo's Lake Forest estate for 6 days when she spilled 2 buckets of water across a marble hallway and directly onto Atlas, a 150-pound Cane Corso known for putting a groomer in the hospital. Everyone stepped back. Emma didn't. Because while the others saw a dangerous dog, she saw something they had missed. Pain, fear, and the same look she had once worn when someone else controlled every part of her life. What happened next would pull her into the orbit of Chicago's most feared Mafia boss and force both of them to learn the difference between protection and possession. Stay until the end, because this story is about far more than romance. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from. If stories like this move you, leave a like before we begin. 6 days before the hallway flooded, before Atlas lowered his enormous head into Emma Carter's lap and made half the Russo household question everything they thought they knew about him, Emma drove through the iron gates of the estate with 1 suitcase in the trunk and exactly $432 in her checking account. The guard at the entrance studied her driver's license longer than necessary. Emma kept both hands on the steering wheel. Beyond the gate, a narrow road curved through bare maple trees and immaculate winter gardens. At the far end stood the Russo estate, a massive stone mansion overlooking Lake Michigan. It did not look like a home. It looked like something built to survive a siege. Security cameras turned quietly above the walls. 2 black SUVs waited near the front drive. Men in dark coats stood beneath the covered entrance, their posture too alert to be ordinary household staff. Emma swallowed. She had worked in expensive homes before. None of them had armed guards. The gate opened. She drove inside. Her old Honda seemed painfully loud on the smooth stone drive. A woman in a gray uniform met her at the service entrance. "Emma Carter?" "Yes, I'm Mrs. Keller, house manager." Mrs. Keller was in her late 50s, silver hair pinned neatly behind her head expression, calm enough to make Emma feel even more nervous. "You're early." Emma checked the dashboard clock. 7 minutes. Mrs. Keller looked at her. "Early is not a problem." "Oh." Emma gave a small laugh. "Right, of course." Mrs. Keller turned toward the door. Emma followed. The service corridor alone was larger than the first apartment Emma had shared with Ryan. Polished stone floors, tall windows, fresh flowers in arrangements that probably cost more than Emma's car payment had. Everything seemed quiet, controlled, intentional. Emma became immediately aware of her own shoes. Too worn, too loud. She adjusted the strap of her bag. It slipped from her shoulder. She caught it before it hit the floor. Mrs. Keller glanced back. Emma forced a smile. "Got it." The woman said nothing. That somehow made it worse. They passed the kitchen, laundry room, storage halls, and staff dining area. Mrs. Keller explained schedules, uniforms, security procedures, and which parts of the house Emma was never to enter without being asked. The West office, the underground garage, the private meeting room, the wine cellar after 9 at night. Emma tried to remember everything. Then Mrs. Keller stopped. "One more rule." Emma waited. "If Mr. Russo tells you to leave a room, you leave. Understood. If Marcus Cane tells you to leave a room, you leave. Okay. If you hear shouting from the East Wing, you do not investigate." Emma blinked. "Does that happen often?" Mrs. Keller stared at her. Emma immediately regretted the question. "Sorry. There is no need to apologize for asking. Just remember the answer." Emma nodded. They continued. A low sound came from somewhere ahead. Not a bark, a growl. Emma slowed. At the end of the corridor stood a black dog the size of a small bear. The animal watched them with dark, steady eyes. Emma stopped completely. Mrs. Keller did too. That is Atlas. Emma had always liked dogs. Atlas looked less like a dog and more like something carved from muscle and shadow. "How much does he weigh?" "Nearly 150 pounds. Friendly, no. The answer came so quickly Emma almost smiled. Almost. Atlas took 1 step forward. Mrs. Keller placed an arm across Emma's path. "Do not approach him unless Mr. Russo is present." Emma studied the dog. A scar ran along his shoulder. His ears shifted toward them, then flattened slightly. He was not barking. He was not lunging. But something about his stillness felt more serious than either. Emma lowered her eyes instead of staring directly at him. Atlas watched her another moment. then turned and disappeared through a doorway. Mrs. Keller resumed walking. Emma followed. What happened to his shoulder? Not your concern. Emma nodded. This time she did not apologize. Her room was not inside the mansion. That was the reason she had applied. The job came with a small cottage near the eastern edge of the property. 1 bedroom, a kitchen barely wide enough for 2 people, a little living room with an old fireplace. The place was modest, but it had a door that locked and a key that belonged only to her. When Mrs. Keller handed it over, Emma stared at the brass key in her palm. For a second she could not speak. Mrs. Keller noticed. Is something wrong? No? Emma closed her fingers around it. Nothing's wrong. She carried her suitcase inside after work. There was no expensive furniture, no granite kitchen, no perfect curtains, just a scratched wooden table, a faded couch, and a bedroom window facing the trees. Emma stood in the middle of the living room. Silence surrounded her. No footsteps in the hallway. No voice from another room asking why dinner was late. No one inspecting the grocery receipt. No one asking where she had been. She set her suitcase down. The sound echoed softly. Emma breathed out. Then she whispered, "Mine." The word felt strange. She said it again, "Mine." The next morning she broke a tray. Not an expensive one. Just a silver service tray carrying coffee and toast to a guest room. She entered too quickly, heard someone behind her say, "Careful," and immediately became careful in the worst possible way. Her wrist stiffened. The tray tilted. A cup slid. Then another. Coffee splashed across the carpet. Emma froze. Mrs. Keller appeared in the doorway. Emma's heart pounded. "I'm sorry." Mrs. Keller looked at the stain. "I'll get towels. I can clean it." "I know. I didn't mean to. I assumed you did not attack the carpet intentionally." Emma stared at her. Mrs. Keller sighed. "Clean it before it sets." Emma moved quickly. Her cheeks burned for the next hour. By lunch, 2 other staff members knew. By dinner, everyone did. On the second day, Emma knocked over a vase while dusting the library. She caught it before it hit the floor. Unfortunately, when she caught it, her elbow struck a stack of books. The books fell. One hit a side table. The side table tipped. A decorative bowl rolled across the rug. A footman named Ben watched the entire chain reaction. When it ended, there was a moment of perfect silence. Emma looked at him. Ben pressed his lips together. "Don't. I'm not saying anything. You're thinking loudly." That made him laugh. Emma did too. For the first time since arriving, she relaxed. When no one judged her, her hands steadied. That fact should have told her something. She was not ready to hear it yet. On the 3rd afternoon, Celeste Vaughn arrived. Emma knew immediately she belonged in Dominic Russo's world. Celeste stepped from a black Mercedes, wearing a cream coat that seemed designed never to encounter weather. Her blonde hair was smooth, her jewelry quiet and expensive. Emma carried a tray of champagne into the sitting room. Celeste was speaking with Dominic. It was the first time Emma had seen him up close. Dominic Russo stood near the windows with one hand in his trouser pocket. He was taller than Emma expected. Dark hair, dark suit, no tie. He looked younger than the rumors made him sound, though there was something in his face that kept anyone from mistaking youth for softness. People changed around him. Voices lowered, posture straightened. Even Celeste seemed slightly more deliberate. Emma entered. Dominic glanced at her. That was all. One glance. Her fingers tightened around the tray. Celeste reached for a glass. Emma shifted the tray toward her. A champagne flute touched another. The delicate sound was harmless. Emma heard Ryan anyway, always rushing, always careless. She adjusted too quickly. One glass tipped. She caught it. Another fell. It struck the hardwood floor and shattered. Emma closed her eyes. "Sorry." Celeste looked down at the broken glass, then up at Emma. Her smile was small and elegant. Some people simply aren't made for houses like this. Emma bent down immediately. "I'll clean it." A man near the fireplace stepped forward. Dominic spoke before he could. "Leave it." Emma stopped. She looked up. Dominic was watching her, not the glass, her. "Mrs. Keller will send someone. I can do it." I said leave it. The words were quiet. That made them impossible to challenge. Emma straightened. Of course. She moved toward the door. Celeste lifted another champagne glass. Perhaps something less fragile next time. Emma kept walking. She did not look back. In the service corridor, she pressed both palms against the cool wall. Her breathing came too fast. It had been a glass, just one glass. Nothing had happened. No one had yelled. No one had called her stupid. So why did her body feel like it was waiting for punishment? She closed her eyes. Ryan's voice came back with perfect clarity. "You see what happens when you rush? You never pay attention. Move. I'll do it." Emma opened her eyes. She hated that he could still enter rooms he had never seen. That night her phone vibrated on the kitchen counter. Ryan Mercer. She stared at the screen until the call ended. A voicemail notification appeared. Emma told herself not to listen. She listened. "Emma, call me. This whole thing has gone far enough. I talked to your sister. Nobody knows what you're doing. You left without discussing anything like an adult." Emma's jaw tightened. Ryan continued. "You know you don't do well on your own. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm trying to keep you from making your life harder than it needs to be." Emma deleted the message. The phone rang again. She turned it face down. Her hand knocked a drinking glass from the counter. It shattered on the floor. Emma stared at the pieces. Her throat closed. For one ugly second she heard him again. "Jesus, Emma, can you go one day without breaking something?" She stood perfectly still, then crouched, picked up the large pieces carefully, swept the floor, ran a damp towel across the tile, checked beneath the cabinet, checked again. When she finished, she threw the glass away. No one came to inspect the floor. No one sighed. No one told her she had proven anything about herself. Emma washed her hands, made tea, sat alone at the table. Outside, wind moved through the trees. The cottage remained quiet. On the fourth day, Emma entered Dominic's office carrying coffee. She had been told he took it black. No sugar, no cream. She repeated those facts in her head all the way down the hallway. Black, no sugar, no cream. She knocked. "Come in." Dominic sat behind a broad walnut desk reading from a folder. Marcus Cane stood near the window. Emma had already learned who Marcus was. Security chief. Closest thing Dominic Russo had to a second shadow. Emma crossed the room. She placed the cup on the desk. Her hand shook. Porcelain struck the saucer. Coffee spilled over the edge. One dark drop landed beside Dominic's hand. Emma's stomach sank. "I'm sorry." She reached for a napkin. Dominic caught her wrist, not hard, but fast. Emma stopped breathing. His gaze moved from her face to her hand. Then he released her immediately. "Slow down." Emma pulled her hand back. "Sorry. You apologized before I said anything." Emma glanced at Marcus. Marcus looked away. Dominic leaned back slightly. "You do that often?" Emma stared at him. "What apologize before anyone is angry?" Heat climbed up her neck. "I spilled your coffee. I noticed. I should clean it." Dominic handed her a cloth. Emma wiped the desk. This time her movements were careful without being frantic. Dominic watched. When she finished, he said, "Thank you." Emma hesitated, then left. Marcus waited until the door closed. "She's nervous." Dominic looked at the coffee. "She's afraid." "Of you?" Dominic's expression barely changed. "No." Marcus raised an eyebrow. Dominic returned to the folder. "That's the interesting part." The fifth day brought snow. A thin layer covered the lawn and silvered the stone paths. Emma was helping in the kitchen when a young cook named Luis reached for a pan with a towel that was too thin. He cursed. The pan hit the counter. Luis grabbed his hand. Everyone reacted at once. Emma did not. She stepped forward. "Sink." Luis stared at her. "Now." He obeyed. Emma turned on cool water and guided his hand beneath it. Not ice. Mrs. Keller entered. "What happened, Burn?" Emma looked at Luis. "Can you move your fingers?" "Yes." "Any numbness?" "No." She asked someone for the first aid kit. Her voice never shook. When Luis finally looked at her, he smiled weakly. "You're scary when you know what you're doing." Emma almost laughed. "I'm going to pretend that was a compliment." From the hallway, Dominic had watched most of it. Emma did not notice him. Later that afternoon, an older groundskeeper sliced his palm while repairing a greenhouse latch. Emma was nearby. Again she became calm. Pressure on the wound. Clean gauze. Elevate the hand. Call for the estate nurse. No dropped supplies. No shaking fingers. No apologies. Dominic saw that too. That evening Celeste returned for dinner. Emma poured wine. Celeste watched her hand. Just watched. Emma felt it. The bottle suddenly seemed too heavy. The stem of the glass too narrow. She heard Ryan. "Don't spill it." She poured too quickly. A drop ran down the side. Celeste smiled. Emma immediately reached for a napkin. Dominic's voice came from the head of the table. "Emma." She stopped. "Yes, sir." "Leave it. It'll stain. The table will survive." Celeste gave him a curious look. Emma stepped back. Dominic looked at her hand. It was trembling. The same hand that had wrapped a bleeding gardener's palm without hesitation 2 hours earlier. He said nothing. The 6th morning began quietly. Emma was assigned to help carry warm water and towels toward the old laundry rooms. She filled 2 metal buckets. They were heavier than they looked. Ben offered to carry one. Emma shook her head. "I've got it. You sure?" "Yes." He stepped aside. Emma walked carefully. Too carefully. Her shoulders were tight. Her eyes stayed fixed on the floor. A voice behind her called Emma. She turned. Her shoe caught the edge of the runner. The first bucket tilted. Emma grabbed for it. Her elbow struck the second. Metal crashed against marble. Water exploded across the corridor. For one stunned second, nobody moved. Then Emma looked up. Atlas stood at the end of the hall. Water ran from his black coat. His eyes locked on her. Someone behind Emma whispered, "Oh, God." Another voice said, "Don't move." Atlas growled. Emma's pulse slammed against her ribs. Every instinct told her to back away. Then the dog shifted his weight. His right hind leg trembled. Emma forgot the spilled water, forgot the watching staff, forgot how many mistakes she had already made that week. She saw only the animal in front of her. His flattened ears, his fast breathing, the painful stiffness through his hip. Atlas took one step. Emma lowered herself slowly. "Hey, big guy." Mrs. Keller hissed Emma. Emma barely heard her. Atlas's eyes flicked toward the metal restraint hooks inside the nearby washroom. His body tightened. Emma followed his gaze, then understood. The cold voice behind her came only seconds later. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" Dominic Russo stood beneath the archway. Emma turned toward him. Water spread across the marble between them. Atlas growled again. Emma looked back at the dog, then at Dominic. "I think everyone's been asking the wrong question." Dominic's eyes narrowed. What question? Emma watched Atlas protect his aching leg. Why he's angry. She rose just enough to keep her movements slow. "I don't think he is." Dominic looked at his dog. Emma's voice softened. "I think he's hurting." For several seconds the hallway remained silent. Then Dominic looked toward Mrs. Keller. "Call Dr. Brooks." His attention returned to Emma. "And bring me every record we have on Atlas." Emma stared at him. Dominic glanced at the spilled buckets. "You can start by telling me exactly what you saw." Emma told Dominic exactly what she had seen. Not what she believed, not what she hoped, only what Atlas had shown her. "He keeps shifting away from his right side," she said. "And every time he looks toward that washroom, his breathing changes." Dominic stood beside the flooded corridor while 2 staff members quietly gathered the overturned buckets. Atlas remained several feet away. His eyes were fixed on Emma. Dominic looked toward the metal restraint hooks mounted beside the wash station. "How long have those been used?" Mrs. Keller hesitated. "For years. With him?" "Yes." Dominic's jaw tightened. Emma noticed, but she kept her attention on Atlas. "He may not be afraid of being washed," she said. "He may be afraid of being trapped while something hurts." Dominic looked at her. "You're very certain for someone who told me she isn't a veterinarian." "I'm not certain." "Then why say it?" "Because someone should ask." That answer silenced him. Dr. Noah Brooks arrived 40 minutes later. He was younger than Emma expected, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing a navy coat over dark scrubs. He entered the estate carrying a medical bag and the relaxed expression of a man who had spent years learning not to make frightened animals more frightened. Atlas knew him. That became obvious immediately. The dog did not growl when Noah approached, but he did not relax either. Noah stopped several feet away. "Hey, old man." Atlas watched him. Noah glanced at Dominic. Who noticed the leg? Dominic looked toward Emma. She did. Noah turned. Emma suddenly felt as though every eye in the corridor had found her again. Her fingers tightened against her skirt. I only saw him shift his weight. Noah crouched. That's usually where noticing starts. With Emma sitting nearby, Atlas allowed Noah to examine him. The process took almost half an hour. Noah never pulled the leg straight, never forced Atlas onto his side. When the dog turned away, Noah waited. Emma watched every movement. Eventually, Noah stood. I want imaging, but I'd be surprised if we don't find arthritis in the right hip. Possibly both. Dominic's expression became unreadable. He's had examinations. He's had general examinations. Noah closed his bag. A 150-pound dog with this build can hide pain until he can't. Dominic looked at Atlas, and the aggression Noah glanced toward the washroom. If someone restrains a dog while his hip hurts and every attempt to escape makes the pain worse, eventually he stops trying to escape. Emma knew the rest before Noah said it. He starts fighting. Noah nodded. Dominic was silent. A man who seemed to possess an answer for everything had none. Emma looked at Atlas. The dog had settled beside her chair. His massive shoulder rested against her knee. She put her hand lightly on his neck. Dominic saw it. What do you need? Noah began listing medications, imaging changes to exercise weight management and surfaces with better traction. Emma listened carefully. When Noah mentioned bathing, she looked toward Dominic. No restraints, she said. Noah raised an eyebrow. Dominic did not. No restraints, Dominic agreed. That afternoon, the old laundry room became something else. The raised metal platform was removed. The restraint rings came down. Rubber flooring was ordered for the corridors Atlas used most often. Emma placed thick mats around the cottage too, though no one had asked her to. Atlas followed her while she worked. He watched her lay the first mat across the stone. You know, Emma told him you've caused a lot of trouble for someone who refuses to admit he needs help. Atlas stared at her. Emma smiled. I know the type. From the doorway, Dominic said, Should I be offended? Emma nearly jumped. The mat slipped from her hands. She caught it. Dominic noticed. Emma exhaled. You need a bell. This is my house. That doesn't make you less quiet. Dominic looked at Atlas. The dog was lying beside Emma instead of returning to him. You've stolen my dog. He has free will. He did not have free will before you arrived. Emma straightened the mat. Apparently he had terrible legal representation. Something moved in Dominic's face. Not quite a smile, close enough that Emma saw it. 2 days later, Dominic summoned her to his office. This time there was no coffee in her hands. Emma considered that progress. He pushed a folder across the desk. What is this, a new employment agreement? She opened it. Her salary had nearly doubled. Her household duties had been reduced. A new title appeared beneath her name, Canine Care Coordinator. Emma read it twice, then looked up. You made this up. Yes, is that a real job? It is now. She turned another page. You want me responsible for Atlas, for his daily care, medication, exercise, coordination with Dr. Brooks. You'll still assist Mrs. Keller where needed, but Atlas becomes your primary responsibility. Emma closed the folder. No. Dominic leaned back. No, I need to change it. His eyes narrowed. You haven't read all of it. I read enough. Emma took a small notebook from her pocket. She had already prepared the list. Dominic looked at it. You expected this, I hoped. She placed the notebook on his desk. Set working hours. Overtime if you need me outside them. No forced restraint unless there is an immediate medical emergency. If I believe someone is doing something that causes Atlas unnecessary pain, I can stop the procedure until Dr. Brooks is consulted. Dominic read silently. Emma continued. My cottage stays private. His eyes lifted. No staff entering without permission unless there's a fire or something serious. That already applies. I want it in writing. He kept reading. Emma's voice became firmer. And no investigating me. Dominic's expression changed. Explain. My family. My personal history. My friends. Anything that has nothing to do with this job. This is a secure property. I understand security checks. You work in my home, and I live in mine. The room became very quiet. Emma forced herself not to look away. Dominic tapped one finger against the notebook. You negotiate aggressively. You hired me because I noticed things. I hired you because my dog has apparently decided you're indispensable. Atlas was lying outside the office door. As if on cue, his tail struck the floor once. Emma looked at him. Smart dog. Dominic picked up a pen. He added the conditions, then signed. Emma stared at the signature. "You're agreeing I said I wanted you to work for me. There are people who would accept the job without any of this." "Yes." "Then why me?" Dominic looked toward Atlas. "Because he trusts you." Emma waited. Dominic added, "And because you tell me no." Her breath caught slightly. She closed the folder before he could see it affect her. Atlas's rehabilitation became the center of Emma's days. Short morning walks, medication hidden inside chicken, warm compresses, careful stretches Noah had shown her, rest when Atlas asked for it. The hardest part was teaching everyone else to stop treating the dog like a machine. One guard tried to pull Atlas forward when he slowed on the stairs. Emma stopped him. "Don't. He's being stubborn. He's hurting. He needs to move. He needs to decide if he can." The guard glanced toward Dominic, who stood nearby. Emma expected Dominic to support his man. Instead, he said, "Let go of the leash." The guard obeyed. Atlas stood still for several seconds, then chose another route through the hall. Emma looked at Dominic. He said nothing, but he had listened. That began happening more often. Dominic would appear while she worked with Atlas. At first, Emma assumed he was supervising. Then she realized he was learning. One afternoon, Atlas froze before crossing a section of polished marble. Emma placed a runner across it. Atlas walked immediately. Dominic watched. "You think the floor scares him? I think falling hurts." "That is not the same thing." Emma looked at him. "No." She scratched Atlas beneath the chin. "Fear usually makes more sense when you know what happened first." Dominic's gaze remained on her a second too long. Emma looked away. By the second week, Atlas had established a new routine. He spent his days at the mansion. Most evenings he followed Emma to the cottage. At exactly 7:30, Dominic appeared to retrieve him. At exactly 7:35, Dominic failed. Atlas. The dog remained beside Emma's fireplace. Home. Atlas did not move. Emma stirred soup at the stove. "You know repeating yourself doesn't make you more convincing." Dominic stood in her doorway. "You're enjoying this. Immensely." He glanced toward the pot. "What are you making?" "Chicken soup. I can see that." "Then why did you ask?" Dominic looked at her. Emma realized what she had said. Her shoulders tightened. Then Dominic took off his coat. "Do you have enough for two?" Emma blinked. "You want soup?" I asked if there was enough. "That isn't the same question." A faint smile appeared. "Emma, yes, there's enough." Dominic sat at her small table. He looked absurd there. The chair was too simple, the room too warm. The dishes did not match. Emma expected him to notice. He did. He just did not seem bothered. She set the bowl in front of him. Dominic tasted it. Emma waited. "Well, it's soup." She stared. "That may be the least useful review anyone has ever given food. It's good." "See growth." Dominic looked toward the counter. A glass jar sat beside the toaster. A strip of masking tape crossed the front. "Van fund. You're buying a van eventually." For what Emma sat opposite him, "I don't know yet." "That seems inefficient. I want something dependable. I can buy you one." Emma laughed. Dominic did not. Her smile faded. "You're serious?" "Yes. No." His eyebrows drew together. "It's a vehicle. It's mine. You don't own it yet. I will." "Why wait?" Emma put down her spoon. "Because I want to know I bought it." Dominic studied her. "It would still belong to you." "No." She shook her head. "It would belong to me because you decided I should have it." "That feels different." Dominic looked as if the distinction irritated him. Emma expected him to argue. He did not. The next evening, he arrived with food from a restaurant in Chicago. Expensive food, too much of it. Emma stared at the containers. "What is this dinner?" "You brought enough for 8 people." "I didn't order it." "You own the restaurant." Dominic paused. Emma pointed at him. That pause answered the question. She kept 2 containers and made him take the rest back. "No one sends food back to me," he said. "Then tonight is historic." Atlas lay beneath the table, perfectly content. Dominic looked at the dog. "You've made her difficult," Emma answered before Atlas could. "I was difficult before." Dominic looked at her. "I know. That should not have felt intimate." It did. The more time Dominic spent in the cottage, the more he noticed. Emma remembered which guard took his coffee with extra sugar. She knew Mrs. Keller's knees hurt before snow. She noticed that the youngest kitchen assistant stopped eating whenever his mother called from Mexico because the conversations made him homesick. She caught a duplicate charge in a supplier invoice that had gone unnoticed for 3 months. Dominic placed the papers on the kitchen table one evening. "You found this. I was checking deliveries. The accounting office missed it. They look at numbers." "And you?" Emma shrugged. "I remembered we didn't receive that many cases." Dominic sat opposite her. "You remember everything." "No. You remember what people need." Emma became uncomfortable. She reached for the papers. "It's not a big deal." Dominic kept his hand on them. "You do that too. What make yourself smaller the moment someone notices something good?" Emma's hand stopped. For a second, Ryan sat at the table instead of Dominic. "Don't get carried away because someone complimented you." Emma pulled her hand back. Dominic saw the change in her face. He released the papers. "I wasn't criticizing you, I know." But she did not sound certain. A week later, Noah arrived for Atlas's follow-up. The dog had improved, not dramatically. Enough. He stood more evenly. He slept longer. He no longer growled when Emma cleaned his back legs. Noah watched her work. "You've done this before, at a shelter. How long? 3 years. Weekends mostly. You never mentioned that." No one asked. Noah smiled. "There are certification programs in canine rehabilitation." Emma laughed. "I'm almost 30. Noah stared at her. "That's tragic." She smiled. "I mean, I'm late. For what, starting over?" Noah leaned against the examination table. 30 isn't a medical condition, Emma." She laughed again. Dominic walked in during that exact moment. He looked from Noah to Emma, then to Atlas. "How is he?" Noah turned. "Improving." Dominic nodded. His gaze returned to Emma. She was still smiling. Something tightened in his expression. Emma noticed. Later, Dominic found a certification brochure on her cottage table. He picked it up. Emma took it from him. "You read my mail now. It wasn't in an envelope. That was not an invitation. I can pay the tuition." "No." Dominic exhaled. "Emma, no. You would be good at this. That doesn't mean you pay for it. Why make it harder because it needs to be mine?" He looked frustrated. "You keep saying that because you keep trying to buy things. I'm trying to help." "I know." Emma softened her voice. "But you keep turning help into something you decide." Dominic went still. "That is usually how problems get solved." "No." Emma set the brochure back on the table. "That's how they become yours." The words remained between them. Neither raised their voice. Neither needed to. Dominic finally stepped back. "Fine." Emma looked at him. "Fine, I won't pay." That sounded painful. It was. She smiled. He did too. For several weeks, Noah worked with Emma and Atlas twice a week. He was easy to talk to, easy to laugh with. One afternoon, Emma was kneeling beside Atlas while Noah demonstrated a stretch. She made a mistake. Noah corrected her. Emma laughed at herself. Dominic stood across the courtyard talking to Marcus. His attention had not been on the conversation for at least 30 seconds. Marcus followed his gaze. Noah said something. Emma laughed again. Marcus looked at Dominic. "You're staring." "I'm listening to you." "No, you aren't." Dominic looked at him. Marcus continued. "Should I repeat the last 5 minutes? No." "Thought so." Emma glanced across the courtyard. She caught Dominic watching. Later that evening, she brought it up. They were walking toward the cottage. Atlas moved slowly between them. "Are you jealous of Noah?" Dominic kept his eyes ahead. "No," Emma nodded. "Good." A few steps passed. "He's very funny." Dominic looked at her. Emma hid a smile, and apparently very talented. "Emma." "Yes, I'm not jealous." Atlas sneezed. Emma looked down. "Thank you for your honesty." Dominic stared at the dog. "You're both becoming irritating." Snow began falling just before they reached the cottage. Soft flakes drifted beneath the porch light. Emma turned toward Dominic. He was closer than she expected. Neither moved. Atlas sat between them. For once, Dominic did not speak first. His eyes dropped briefly to Emma's mouth. She felt it. Her pulse changed. The silence became heavier. Dominic lifted one hand, then stopped before touching her. Emma looked at his hand, then his face. "May I?" 2 words. Nothing more. But they reached somewhere inside her that expensive gifts never could. Emma nodded. Yes. Dominic touched her cheek, warm fingers against cold skin. Emma leaned into his palm before she could think about it. He moved closer. So did she. Atlas suddenly stood, his enormous head pushed directly between them. Emma burst out laughing. Dominic stepped back and looked down at him. You cannot be serious. Atlas stared up at him. Emma covered her mouth, trying to stop laughing. Dominic pointed toward the cottage. Inside, Atlas did not move. Dominic closed his eyes. Emma finally caught her breath. I think he has concerns. He has no authority here. Emma opened the door. Atlas walked inside immediately. Dominic stared after him. Emma leaned against the doorframe. You were saying something about authority. Dominic looked at her again. The humor faded slowly, leaving something warmer beneath it. I'm beginning to regret letting either of you have choices. Emma's smile softened. Careful. Dominic understood. His expression changed. He lowered his hand. Then he stepped back from the doorway. Good night, Emma. Good night, Dominic. She watched him walk toward the mansion through the falling snow. Atlas settled beside her legs. Emma rested one hand on his head. For the first time since coming to Lake Forest, Dominic Russo had asked before reaching for something he wanted. And for the first time in years, Emma had been able to answer without fear. The snow stopped before midnight, but by morning, the Russo estate looked transformed. White covered the lawns, the stone walls, the narrow road leading toward Lake Michigan. Emma stood at her cottage window with a cup of coffee between both hands. Atlas was asleep beside the fireplace. She should have been thinking about work. Instead, she was thinking about two words. May I? Dominic had asked before touching her. It should not have mattered so much. For most people, perhaps it would not have. For Emma, it had felt almost dangerous, not because Dominic frightened her, because he had given her something she was still learning how to hold. A choice. Her phone buzzed on the table. For one terrible second, she expected to see Ryan's name. Instead, the message was from Mrs. Keller. Formal dinner tonight. Mr. Russo requests Atlas remain downstairs. Please coordinate. Emma set the phone down. Atlas opened one eye. Don't look at me like that. His tail tapped the floor. I didn't do anything. Atlas continued staring. Emma sighed. Fine. Almost nothing. By 6 that evening, the estate no longer felt like a home. It felt like a theater built for people who knew exactly how much power they wanted everyone else to notice. Black cars arrived one after another beneath the front portico. Politicians stepped out with spouses wearing diamonds. Business owners laughed too loudly. Attorneys shook hands with men they would later pretend not to know. Emma recognized several faces from local television. She also noticed the people who never appeared on television. The men who did not introduce themselves. The women who knew which rooms they were allowed to enter without being shown. Dominic stood at the center of it all. Dark tuxedo, white shirt, no visible strain. He moved through the crowd with the same quiet control Emma had seen in his office. People came to him. They adjusted themselves around him. She had watched Atlas do something similar before entering a room. Measure, wait, decide where danger lived. Emma was helping Mrs. Keller near the dining room when Celeste Vaughn arrived. Celeste wore deep red. The color made the entire room seem dull around her. She kissed Dominic lightly on the cheek. Emma looked away before she could decide why the sight bothered her. Mrs. Keller handed Emma a list. Atlas stays in the library after dinner. Mr. Russo wants him away from the main crowd. Does Atlas know that Mrs. Keller gave her a tired look? No, that could complicate negotiations. Emma. Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Keller almost smiled. Emma crossed the room. Atlas followed at her side. He wore no formal collar. Dominic had tried one. Atlas had removed it by rubbing his neck against a chair until the clasp broke. Emma had laughed for almost 5 minutes. Dominic had not. Now Atlas moved through the crowd with calm confidence. People made space for him. Emma suspected half of them had heard stories. Probably exaggerated. Perhaps not enough. She brought Atlas toward the library. Celeste intercepted them. So he really follows you everywhere. Emma stopped. Atlas sat beside her. Most places. Celeste looked down at him. He used to follow Dominic that way. Emma kept her expression neutral. He still does. Celeste smiled. Not from what I hear. Emma had learned that conversations with Celeste were rarely about the sentence being spoken. She waited. Celeste glanced across the room toward Dominic. "You've become quite important here. I take care of Atlas. That isn't what I meant." Emma felt the old tightening in her stomach. She forced herself not to retreat. "What did you mean?" Celeste's smile sharpened. "I mean men like Dominic become fascinated by unusual things." Emma looked at her. Things women outside their normal world. Something simple, something unexpected. Emma understood. Celeste continued. "It can feel very significant while it lasts." Atlas shifted. Emma touched his shoulder. Her hand was steady. "I appreciate the warning." Celeste looked almost disappointed. Emma added, "But if Dominic has something to tell me, I assume he knows where to find me." Then she walked away. Her heart was beating too fast. Still, she walked away. No apology, no explanation, no attempt to make Celeste like her. That alone felt like winning something. Later dinner began. Emma was not serving the tables that evening, but she helped to coordinate staff and kept Atlas settled near the library. Everything went smoothly for almost 40 minutes. Then a server backed into her while carrying a tray. Emma turned. Her hand struck a crystal bowl displayed on a narrow table. The bowl fell. It shattered against the hardwood floor. The sound sliced through the room. Conversation stopped. Emma froze. The old reaction came instantly. Heat in her face, tightness in her chest, awareness of every pair of eyes. Someone whispered. Celeste was standing only a few feet away. She looked at the broken crystal, then at Emma. "There she is." The words were quiet. They still reached Emma. For a second, the dining room disappeared. She was 24 again, standing in Ryan's kitchen, a plate broken at her feet, his friends watching from the living room, Ryan sighing. Not angry, worse, amused. She gets nervous, he had told them. Then he had looked at Emma. "Don't you?" Emma remembered how everyone laughed gently, as though he had said something affectionate. She remembered laughing too, because not laughing would have made the room uncomfortable. Now Celeste watched her with the same expression. Not rage, recognition, as though a mistake had confirmed something she had been waiting to prove. Emma looked down at the broken crystal. Her fingers were trembling. Then someone moved behind her. Dominic. She could feel him before she saw him. The room changed around his presence. He was about to speak. Emma lifted one hand. Dominic stopped. That surprised everyone. Possibly Dominic most of all. Emma looked at Celeste. "Yes." Celeste's eyebrows rose. Emma breathed once, slowly. "I do make mistakes when people watch me like they're waiting for one." No one moved. Emma continued. "When someone looks at me like one dropped glass can explain everything, my hands shake." Her voice was not loud. It did not need to be. Celeste's smile faded. Emma glanced toward the kitchen doors. Last week, Luis burned his hand. No one interrupted. The week before that, Mr. Parker cut his palm in the greenhouse. She looked back at Celeste. My hands didn't shake then. The room remained silent. "When Atlas is hurting, my hands don't shake." Emma looked at the broken pieces beneath her feet. "This is glass." She lifted her eyes. "It is expensive glass, but it is still glass." Celeste's face changed. The cruelty had vanished. In its place was something colder. Embarrassment. Emma turned toward Mrs. Keller. "I'll replace it out of my paycheck." Mrs. Keller said, "No, you won't." Dominic spoke for the first time. "No." Emma looked at him. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes were not. There was something in them she had never seen before. Pride. Emma looked away before it became too much. She helped clear the broken crystal. Dominic did not interfere. That mattered. He let her handle it. Later, when the last guest had left, Emma found him alone in the library. Atlas was asleep near the fireplace. Dominic held a glass of whiskey. "You embarrass Celeste?" Emma leaned against the doorway. She embarrassed herself. A pause. Dominic smiled. Emma crossed her arms. "You agree I rarely disagree with accurate observations. That sounds dangerously close to a compliment." It was. Emma looked toward Atlas. "Then thank you." Dominic set his glass down. "You did not need me." Emma looked back at him. "What in the dining room?" He walked closer. "I thought you did." Emma understood. "And I was wrong." Something inside her softened. Dominic stopped a few feet away. Emma said, "You say that surprisingly well." "Do not become accustomed to it. I'll treasure the moment." His eyes dropped briefly to her mouth. The air changed. Emma felt it immediately. So did he. But neither moved closer. Atlas suddenly lifted his head. A low rumble rolled through the windows. Thunder. Emma frowned. Was that thunder? Dominic looked toward the dark glass. In January, another rumble answered. Then rain struck the windows. Hard. The storm arrived quickly. Wind slammed against the estate from the lake. Lights flickered. Somewhere upstairs, a door closed violently. Atlas stood. His entire body changed. Emma noticed before Dominic did. The dog's ears flattened. His mouth opened. Fast breathing. Then another crack of thunder exploded over the roof. Atlas bolted. He struck the edge of a table. Dominic stepped forward. "Atlas." The dog backed into the corner. "Stay." Atlas's breathing became worse. Dominic's voice hardened. "Atlas, stay." Emma turned. "Stop." Dominic looked at her. "He needs structure." "No, he needs space. He's going to hurt himself, and ordering him not to be afraid isn't helping." Another flash lit the windows. Atlas tried to push behind a heavy chair. Emma moved slowly. She turned off 2 lamps, then another. The room became dim. She opened the library door, then opened the hall door beyond it. Dominic watched. "What are you doing giving him exits? He won't leave the house, I know." "Then why open the doors?" "So he knows he can." Emma sat on the floor, not close to Atlas, across the room. She lowered her shoulders, waited. Thunder rolled again. Atlas trembled. Emma did not call him. Dominic stood near the fireplace. For several minutes nothing happened. Then Atlas moved. 1 step, another. He stopped. Emma kept her eyes lowered. Atlas crossed half the room, then lay down 3 feet from her. Emma extended one hand across the rug. He moved closer. His head came down beside her knee. Dominic slowly sat on the floor opposite them. Emma looked at him. He seemed deeply uncomfortable. "You've probably never sat on your own library floor." "No, good for character. I preferred my character before." Emma almost smiled. Another crack of thunder came. Atlas flinched. Dominic instinctively reached toward his collar. Emma touched Dominic's wrist. He stopped. "Let him choose where he needs to be." Dominic looked at her hand on his wrist, then at Atlas. He lowered his hand. After a moment, he placed his palm flat against the rug. Atlas sniffed it, then shifted closer. The 3 of them remained on the floor while the storm moved over Lake Michigan. Eventually, Dominic asked, "How did you know?" Emma looked at Atlas. "About what that orders would make it worse." Her fingers moved slowly through Atlas's coat. "Because being afraid and being controlled at the same time is worse than being afraid." Dominic did not answer. Emma wished she could take the sentence back, not because it was wrong, because it was too true. Dominic leaned against the sofa. "Ryan." Emma's hand stopped. She looked at him. He had never spoken the name before. "How do you know that you're employment screening?" Her expression hardened. Dominic added quickly, "Basic screening. Marriage record, divorce filing. Nothing beyond what security required." Emma watched him. "You remembered his name?" "Yes." The storm continued outside. Emma looked down. For months she had avoided explaining Ryan because explanations always made her feel ridiculous. There had been no bruises, no police report, no emergency room, nothing clean enough to point at and say that was the moment. Ryan had loved her, or believed he did. That was the hardest part. Emma took a breath. "He never hit me." Dominic remained silent. "He never threatened to kill me. He never locked me in a room." Her fingers tightened slightly in Atlas's fur. "He just made every decision until I forgot I was allowed to make them." Dominic's face became still. Emma continued. "At first it was small things. Where we ate, which bank we used, what car made sense, which friends were exhausting me. Thunder rolled farther away now. Then he started answering questions for me." Her mouth tightened. If someone asked what I wanted, he would say, "Emma doesn't care." She gave a short laugh with no humor in it. Eventually, I stopped correcting him. Dominic watched her. He controlled the money. Emma nodded. "He said I was bad with numbers. You found a $70,000 discrepancy in one of my supplier accounts." Emma looked at him. I know. That simple answer hurt more than she expected. She continued. If I bought something he didn't like, he would ask why I was wasting money. If I wanted to work more hours, he said I was stressed. If I wanted fewer hours, he said I lacked discipline. Dominic's jaw tightened. Why did you stay? The question came out too quickly. Emma's eyes lifted. Dominic immediately knew. I didn't mean that the way it sounded. Yes, you did. He did not deny it. Emma looked toward the windows. Because leaving someone who hurts you in obvious ways is easier to explain. She swallowed. Leaving someone who tells everyone he is taking care of you is harder. Dominic said nothing. Emma's voice lowered. By the end, I couldn't tell the difference between being loved and being managed. The sentence settled into the room. Dominic looked away. For the first time that night, Emma saw something close to fear cross his face. Not fear of her past, fear of recognition. She noticed. What Dominic remained quiet. Dominic. He stared at the dying fire. My brother used to say control was the only thing separating a man from chaos. Emma waited. Dominic rarely volunteered anything personal. She had learned not to interrupt when he did. He was older than me. Dominic continued. Anthony. Emma had heard the name once from Mrs. Keller. Never explained. He taught me everything. Dominic's voice had gone distant. He taught me which people lied with their mouths and which ones lied with their hands. He taught me where to sit in restaurants, which windows mattered, how to know when a room had become unsafe. Atlas shifted between them. Dominic looked at the dog. When my father died, Anthony was the person I trusted most. What happened? Dominic's eyes remained on Atlas. He decided I was more useful dead. Emma said nothing. Dominic rubbed his thumb slowly along the edge of his glass. There was a meeting in Cicero, warehouse near the rail yard. His expression hardened. Anthony told me we were settling a dispute. Emma could almost see the room through him. Bare concrete, cold air, men waiting in shadows. When I walked in, there were 6 men who were not supposed to be there. Emma's chest tightened. They shot you. Dominic nodded once, twice. Her eyes went to his torso as if she could see through the shirt. Dominic noticed. One went through my shoulder, one lower. He touched his side. Atlas was in the vehicle outside. Emma looked down at the dog. He got loose. Marcus opened the door. Dominic's mouth almost curved. Atlas ignored everyone. He looked at Emma. He came straight to me. Emma placed a hand on the dog's broad neck. He protected you. He stayed over me until Marcus got me out. The storm had softened. Rain ticked against the windows. Emma asked Anthony. Dominic's expression closed. He is gone. Emma understood not to ask how. Dominic leaned back. After that, I stopped leaving important things to chance. The words were calm. Emma heard the cost inside them. People aren't things. Dominic's eyes found hers. I know. Emma studied him. No. His brow tightened. I think you understand the sentence. She looked at Atlas, lying between them. I'm not sure you understand the difference yet. Dominic did not become angry. That almost frightened her more. He simply absorbed it. Another man might have defended himself. Dominic only said, maybe not. Emma's throat tightened. He had given her a truth without demanding that she make it prettier. The storm passed slowly. By 11, Atlas had stopped trembling. Emma stood. My legs are asleep. Dominic looked at the carpet. This was your idea, and you survived. Barely. Emma smiled. They walked toward the cottage together. The snow had turned to slush under the rain. Atlas moved slowly beside them. At Emma's porch, Dominic stopped. The same place, the same light, the same quiet tension as before. Emma turned. You're thinking too loudly again. Dominic looked at her. I'm trying not to make a mistake. Emma smiled. That's my line. He stepped closer, not enough to touch her. May I kiss you? Emma's breath caught. This time Atlas did not move between them. Emma looked into Dominic's face. The man everyone obeyed was waiting for an answer. She stepped closer. Yes, Dominic kissed her. Softly at first. Almost cautiously. Emma's hand came to his chest. She could feel his heartbeat beneath the fabric. He deepened the kiss only when she moved closer. There was strength in him. Restraint, too. The combination made her dizzy. For several seconds, the estate disappeared. Ryan disappeared. Celeste, the staff, the rumors, everything. There was only cold air, Dominic's warm hand against her cheek, and the fact that she had chosen this. When they separated, Dominic rested his forehead lightly against hers. Emma smiled. That was very controlled. He looked at her. Was that a complaint? Maybe. He kissed her again. This one was not cautious. Emma laughed against his mouth. Atlas gave a low, impatient sound. Dominic pulled back. I swear that dog has terrible timing. Emma scratched Atlas behind the ears. He has standards. Dominic looked at her. So do you. Yes. The answer was immediate. Dominic nodded. I know. Emma went inside. Dominic waited until she locked the door before walking back toward the mansion. The next morning, Marcus entered Dominic's office before 8. That alone was unusual. He carried a plain white envelope. No return address. Dominic looked up. What Marcus closed the door. We found this inside the outer gate. Dominic's expression changed. How still checking. Marcus placed the envelope on the desk. Dominic opened it. Inside was a photograph. Emma leaving Noah's clinic in Chicago. She wore jeans, a gray coat, and the blue scarf Mrs. Keller had given her for Christmas. Atlas was not with her. She was alone. The photograph had been taken from across the street. A red circle had been drawn around Emma's head. Nothing was written beneath it. Nothing needed to be. Dominic stared at the picture. The warmth from the night before vanished from his face. Marcus watched him carefully. We think Marlowe. Dominic did not respond. Could be someone using his name. Dominic's fingers tightened around the photograph. How long have they been watching her? We don't know. Find out. We are. Dominic stood. Double the gate. Marcus nodded. Put a car on the clinic. Dominic. He looked at him. Marcus chose his words carefully. She has conditions in her contract. Dominic's expression went cold. This is not an employment issue. I know. Then do it. Marcus remained still. Dominic's voice lowered. They photographed her alone. I see that. They know her route. Yes. Dominic looked toward the windows. Far below, Emma was crossing the lawn with Atlas. She had no idea she was being watched. No idea that someone had placed a red circle around her face because of him. Atlas stopped near the lake. Emma crouched beside him. Even from this distance, Dominic could see her laughing. Marcus followed his gaze. Talk to her. Dominic said nothing. Dominic. His eyes remained on Emma. I will. But before he spoke to her, 3 more security men were already on their way to the estate. A black SUV had already been assigned to Noah's clinic, and the road leading to Emma's cottage had already become the most heavily watched stretch of property in Lake Forest. Emma noticed the first security car before breakfast. A black SUV sat near the eastern road, half hidden behind a line of bare trees. The engine was running. She recognized the driver. He usually worked near the main gate. Emma stood on her porch with coffee in one hand and Atlas beside her. The dog stared toward the vehicle. So I'm not imagining it. Atlas looked up at her. Emma took another sip. You are terrible at reassuring people. When she reached the mansion, 2 men she had never seen before were standing near the service entrance. Both wore dark coats. Both watched her approach. Emma slowed. One opened the door for her. Morning, Ms. Carter. Emma stopped. Most of Dominic's men called her Emma. Morning. She walked inside. Another guard stood at the end of the corridor, then another near the kitchen. Something had changed. Mrs. Keller was arranging breakfast trays when Emma entered. Did we hire a small army overnight? Mrs. Keller kept working. You should ask Mr. Russo. That sounds like yes. Mrs. Keller looked at her. Ask Mr. Russo. Emma set down her bag. Atlas remained close to her leg. She found Dominic in his office 10 minutes later. Marcus was there. So were 2 men Emma did not recognize. Conversation stopped when she entered. That alone told her enough. Dominic looked at her. Give us a minute. The men left. Marcus followed more slowly. Emma waited until the door closed. Then she said, There's a car outside my cottage. Dominic did not pretend ignorance. Yes, and more security at the house. Yes. Why he stood. Sit down. Emma remained standing. No. His jaw tightened slightly. Not anger, habit. He had given an instruction and expected it to become reality. Emma crossed her arms. Tell me what happened. Dominic looked toward the door, then back at her. There has been a threat. Her stomach dropped. Against you, against us. That is not specific. Dominic reached into the drawer of his desk. He pulled out the photograph. Emma saw herself first. Gray coat, blue scarf. The street outside Noah's clinic. Then she saw the red circle around her head. For several seconds she said nothing. Atlas moved closer. Emma touched his neck automatically. When was this taken? We think 3 days ago. Her eyes lifted. You've had this since yesterday morning. Yes. And you waited until I asked about the guards. Dominic did not answer. Emma looked back at the photograph. The image should have frightened her. It did. But beneath the fear, something else was growing. Anger. Who sent it? We're working on that, Marcus said. Marlowe, Dominic's eyes narrowed. You heard that your office door was open when I walked past yesterday. He may be involved. Who is he? Someone you do not need to worry about. Emma looked at him. No. Dominic's expression hardened. No, you do not get to show me a photograph of myself with a red circle around my head and then tell me I do not need to worry about the man who might have sent it. He is being handled. By whom, me? That is not an answer. It is the only one you need. Emma stared at him. There it was. Not cruelty, not contempt. Certainty. The same kind Ryan used to wear when he decided a conversation had become unnecessary. Emma felt her chest tighten. She forced herself to stay present. This affects me. I know. Then I need information. You need security. I need both. Dominic came around the desk. The people involved in this do not negotiate like normal people, and that means I stop being one. His face changed. That is not what I said. Emma pointed at the photograph. Then talk to me. Dominic took a breath. There is a group operating out of the southwest side. Marlowe has been trying to take control of several businesses connected to my family. What kind of businesses? Dominic looked at her. Emma understood. Right. She looked down. And because he cannot get to you, he photographs me. Possibly. We do not know who sent it. Emma pressed her lips together. Dominic stepped closer. The important thing is that you are protected until I know. What does protected mean? A car on you when you leave the property? Emma stared. No, it is already assigned. Then unassign it. No. The word was calm, absolute. Emma felt something inside her go cold. Dominic. This is not negotiable. Her eyes locked onto his. Almost instantly he seemed to realize what he had said. Emma spoke quietly. Everything involving my life is negotiable, not when someone wants to kill you. You do not know that they do. That distinction will not matter if I guess wrong. Emma could see the fear beneath his control now. That made it harder. Because she loved him enough to understand why he was afraid. She also understood what fear could make people justify. I will take precautions. You will take mine. No. Dominic's voice dropped. Emma. She shook her head. We discussed them. We agree on them. Security does not work by committee. My life does. Neither moved. Atlas stood between them. Finally, Dominic looked away. We will discuss it tonight. Emma picked up the photograph. I'm keeping this. Dominic looked back. No. She held it tighter. It is a photograph of me. It is evidence. Make a copy. Dominic stared at her for another second, then nodded. Fine. Emma left the office with Atlas at her side. The black SUV followed her to Noah's clinic anyway. She saw it in the mirror the entire drive. She tried not to look. That made her look more. By the time she parked, her shoulders were tight. Noah met her at the side entrance. You okay? Emma looked toward the street. The SUV stopped half a block away. Apparently I have a driver now. Noah followed her gaze. Dominic. Noah whistled softly. I'm guessing you didn't request one. Emma closed the car door. No. Inside, she tried to focus on work. A golden retriever recovering from knee surgery needed assisted movement. A terrier refused to place weight on an injured front paw. A frightened pit bull mix shook whenever the examination table moved. Normally, those cases pulled Emma fully into the moment. Today, every time she crossed a window, she saw the SUV outside. Noah noticed. You want me to close the blinds? Emma stopped. Her first instinct was yes. Then she looked at the window again. No. Why? Because I don't want to start living like the world outside the glass belongs to someone else. Noah did not ask for an explanation. He simply nodded. That evening, Dominic was waiting at the cottage. He stood on the porch. Atlas moved ahead, happy to see him. Emma was less enthusiastic. You could have called. Dominic looked at the SUV pulling away behind her. You would have told me not to come. Possibly. He glanced at the cottage door. May I come in? The question mattered. Emma hated that it still mattered. She opened the door. Yes. Inside, Dominic removed his coat. Emma went directly to the kitchen. She needed her hands occupied. You said we would discuss security. We are. Good. Emma filled the kettle. I will accept someone checking the cottage before I get home, if there is a credible concern. Dominic listened. I will tell Marcus where I am going when I leave the estate. She turned. I will not have a car following me every minute. No. Emma stared at him. You said we were discussing. We are. That means I speak and you decide it means I listen. And then there are things I cannot agree to. Emma folded her arms. Then that is not a discussion. Dominic's patience thinned. I cannot protect you if I do not know where you are. I have a phone. Phones get turned off. I won't turn mine off. They get taken. Emma's stomach tightened. Dominic immediately saw it. He softened his voice. Emma. No. She stepped away. Do not give me the worst possible scenario until I am too afraid to disagree with you. That is not what I'm doing. Then stop acting as though fear makes your answer automatically correct. Dominic looked exhausted. For the first time, not powerful, not dangerous, just tired. He rubbed one hand over his face. I saw that photograph and all I could think about was what would happen if I had been 5 minutes too late. Emma's anger weakened. She hated that too. She walked toward him. Then tell me you're scared. Dominic looked at her. Do not turn being scared into permission to run my life. He was quiet. Emma placed her hand against his chest. I will be careful. That is not enough. It has to be. His hand closed around hers. No. The word was barely audible. Emma slowly pulled her hand away. Dominic seemed to understand the damage only after it was done. He left half an hour later. They did not kiss. The following morning, there were 2 vehicles outside the cottage. Emma called him immediately. Remove one. No. She closed her eyes. Dominic, I am in a meeting. I don't care. There was silence on the other end. Emma continued. I agreed to 1 car until we talked again. You did not agree to 1 car, exactly. Dominic exhaled. We had movement last night near the north gate. What movement? A vehicle we could not identify, and that means 2 cars outside my house for now. Emma looked through the window. 2 men stood beside the road. She lowered her voice. You are making me feel watched. You are being watched. By you. I am trying to keep you safe. The kettle began screaming on the stove. Emma flinched. I have to go. Emma. She ended the call. At the mansion, things became worse. A guard appeared outside every room Emma entered. Not inside, never close enough to interfere, but always there. When she went to the kitchen, someone waited in the hall. When she took Atlas outside, a man followed 20 yards behind. When she walked toward the greenhouse, another vehicle moved slowly along the service road. By afternoon, Emma could barely breathe. She found Marcus near the garages. Make them stop. Marcus looked uncomfortable. I can't. You run security, I run Dominic's security, and you know this is too much. Marcus glanced toward the mansion. Emma stepped closer. Do you? He sighed. I know he is afraid. So am I. Marcus looked at her. That is what nobody seems to understand. I am afraid of whoever took that picture. And now I am also afraid that every decision I make is going to be taken away because someone else decided fear gives them the right. Marcus said nothing. Emma saw the answer in his face. You have told him. Yes. What did he say? That if I thought you being angry was worse than you being dead, I could resign? Emma almost laughed. That sounds like him. Yes. Marcus looked toward Atlas. Give him time. Emma's face hardened. I gave someone 9 years to learn that caring about me did not mean owning my choices. Marcus's expression changed. Emma walked away before he could answer. That night Ryan called. Of all nights. Emma was sitting on the floor beside Atlas when the phone lit up. Ryan Mercer. She stared at it. Normally she would let it ring. Instead she answered. What? Ryan sounded surprised. Emma, you called. I've been calling, I noticed. He paused. I heard you're still in Illinois. Emma went cold. From who, your sister? That is not what I asked. Ryan sighed. There was the familiar sound, the sigh that made every conversation feel like Emma had arrived already unreasonable. I'm trying to make sure you're okay. I'm fine. You don't sound fine. Emma looked out the window. A security man stood beneath a tree. I said I'm fine. Ryan lowered his voice. Emma, you always say that right before things get out of control. Her fingers tightened around the phone. I need you to stop calling me. I'm your husband. Ex-husband. You know what I mean. No. Emma stood. I actually don't. Come on. Ryan laughed softly. You disappear into some stranger's house, take a domestic job, and now nobody can even get a straight answer about what you're doing. I don't owe you one. I'm worried about you. I didn't ask you to be. This is exactly what I mean. You make decisions emotionally and then get defensive when someone tries to help. Emma stared at the phone. For years those words had made her doubt herself. Tonight they sounded different, not true, familiar. That was all. She said, Goodbye, Ryan, Emma. She ended the call, then blocked the number. Her hand shook afterward, but she did it. The next day Dominic sent a message. Do not leave the estate today. Emma read it twice. She called him. He did not answer. She called Marcus. He answered immediately. What happened? Nothing confirmed. What does that mean? We received information that someone connected to Marlowe may be in Lake Forest. Emma's pulse quickened. Is there a direct threat? Not yet. I have class tonight. Marcus was quiet. Emma understood. Dominic told you not to let me leave. He told me the property is locked down. I am not property, I know. Then open the gate. I can't. Emma ended the call. Her class began at 6. At 5:30, she drove toward the gate. 2 security vehicles blocked the road. Emma stopped her Honda. Marcus approached on foot. He looked miserable. Please don't make me stand in front of your car. Emma lowered the window. Move, I can't. Marcus, Emma. She looked toward the gate. Beyond it, the road was completely empty. She could almost taste the freedom of it. You cannot keep me here. Marcus's face tightened. Not permanently, that is not what I said. He looked at her. I know. Emma turned the car around. She drove directly to the mansion. Dominic was in the meeting room. Emma opened the door without knocking. 6 men looked at her. Dominic's expression darkened. Out. The men left. Emma waited until the door closed. You locked the gate. Yes. I had class. You can miss one. Emma stared. Something inside her became perfectly still. Dominic continued. There was credible information. You could have told me. I sent you a message. You gave me an order. Yes. The simplicity of his answer hurt. Emma walked closer. I am not Atlas. Dominic's eyes hardened. Do not make this into something it isn't. What is it, security? No, security is a conversation about risk. Emma pointed toward the windows. This is you deciding my life stops until you feel better. Dominic stood. I am deciding that you do not drive through an unsecured gate while someone connected to my enemies is less than 10 miles away. And if that lasts a week, then you stay a week. A month if necessary. Emma looked at him. And if I say no, Dominic said nothing. That silence was worse than any answer. Emma stepped back. Open the gate tomorrow. We'll see what the situation is. No. Her voice sharpened. Open the gate. Dominic's patience broke. Emma, enough. She flinched. He saw it. His anger vanished immediately. But the damage remained. Emma looked at him. You sound like him. Dominic went pale beneath the controlled expression. Do not compare me to Ryan. Then stop making the comparison easy. She left. The gate opened the next morning. Dominic did not apologize. Neither did Emma. For 2 days they barely spoke. The security remained. The threat remained. So did the distance between them. Then Emma came home from the clinic on Thursday afternoon and saw a moving truck outside her cottage. At first, she thought she had taken the wrong road. Then she saw 2 Russo security men carrying a box down her front steps. Her box, her handwriting, books. Emma stopped the car in the middle of the driveway. For several seconds she could not move. Another man came out carrying her bedside lamp. Emma opened the car door. "What are you doing?" The men froze. One looked toward the cottage. Emma followed his gaze. Dominic stepped out. Her entire body went cold. He walked toward her. "Emma." She looked at the truck, then the boxes, then him. "What are they doing?" Dominic spoke carefully. "The cottage cannot be secured adequately." Emma heard the words. They did not make sense. "What are they doing with my things, moving them to the main house?" Her breathing stopped. Dominic continued. "The West Guest Suite has a private entrance. You'll have space." Emma stared at him. "You moved my things." "Yes, without asking me." "We discussed the cottage." "No." Emma shook her head. "We discussed security. The cottage is a security problem, so you decided I don't live here anymore. For now." Emma looked at the open cottage door. Her chair had been moved. The photographs from the wall were gone. Her kitchen shelves were half empty. The jar labeled Van Fund sat inside a box near the truck. Something inside her broke open, Ryan carrying her clothes out of the bedroom because he had decided they needed the larger closet. Ryan closing the bank account because he could manage the money better. Ryan selling her old car because it was unreliable. Ryan saying he had handled things. Always already done. Always too late for her answer to matter. Emma walked toward the truck. "Put it back." Dominic followed. "Emma." She picked up the box containing her books. "Put everything back. You cannot stay here tonight. I did not ask. This is not safe." Emma turned. "I did not ask." Dominic's face tightened. "I did not have time to argue with you." The world went silent. Even Dominic seemed to hear the sentence after it left his mouth. Emma stared at him. He took one step forward. "Emma." She stepped back. "No." His face changed. She pointed toward the cottage. "You watched me sit on the floor with Atlas." Dominic said nothing. "You watched me leave the door open." Her voice began to tremble. "You watched me stop every time he showed me he was uncomfortable." "Emma, this is different." "No." She shook her head. "This is exactly the same." Dominic's eyes hardened with frustration. "He is a dog, and I am a person. I know that." "Do you?" Her voice cracked. "You watched me teach him that walking away was allowed." Dominic stood completely still. Emma continued. "You watched me give your dog more choice than you just gave me." The words hit him. Emma saw it, but now she could not stop. "You moved my clothes. I was trying to protect you. You moved my photographs. The cottage is exposed. You packed my kitchen. Emma, you took my home apart while I was gone." Dominic's voice rose. "Because someone wants to use you to get to me. And that makes my decisions irrelevant. If the decision gets you killed, yes." Emma stared at him. There. Finally. The truth. Not hidden behind security language, not softened by good intentions. Dominic believed there were circumstances in which her no stopped counting. Emma's eyes burned. "Safety you choose for me can feel exactly like captivity." Dominic's expression broke. "I am trying to keep you alive, and I am trying to remain a person while I am alive." Atlas appeared in the cottage doorway. The dog looked between them. Dominic lowered his voice. "You think I don't understand what I'm risking? I think you understand risk better than anyone I've ever met." Emma wiped at one eye angrily. "But you only understand it if you control the answer." Dominic looked away. "You want me to gamble with your life. No, I want you to stand beside me while I decide what risks I am willing to live with." "I cannot do that." Emma went still. Dominic looked at her. He seemed almost surprised by his own answer. Then he said quieter, "I love you." Emma closed her eyes. She had imagined hearing those words, not like this, never like this. When she opened her eyes, Dominic was watching her with something raw in his face. "I love you," he repeated. Emma's tears came then. She hated them. She let them. "I believe you." For half a second, relief crossed his face. Emma shook her head. "That is why this hurts so much." Dominic's expression collapsed. She looked toward the cottage. "Put my things back." "Emma, put them back." A long silence. Then Dominic looked toward the security men. "Do it." The men moved immediately. Emma watched the first box return inside. Dominic stepped closer. What are you going to do? She looked at him. I'm leaving. His face changed. The estate. Yes, you cannot. Emma almost laughed, not because anything was funny, because he still had not hurt himself. Watch me. Dominic looked toward the road. The threat is not resolved. I'll stay somewhere Marcus approves for the first few days. That is not enough. It is what I am offering. Dominic's jaw tightened. Emma walked past him. He caught her wrist. The moment his fingers closed, both of them froze. Dominic released her instantly. Emma looked at the place he had touched, then at him. His face had gone white. Emma, I'm sorry. She nodded once. I know. That made it worse. She entered the cottage. Atlas followed her. Dominic remained outside. Emma packed one bag, only one, the same size she had carried through the Russo gates months earlier. When she came out, Marcus was waiting near her car. Dominic stood several yards away. Atlas was beside Emma. She crouched and wrapped both arms around the dog's neck. Atlas leaned into her. I'm not taking him, Dominic said quietly. You can. Emma looked at him. No. He'll go with you, I know. She pressed her face against Atlas's head. That is why I'm not asking. Dominic understood. She was refusing to turn Atlas into leverage. Even now. Emma whispered against the dog's ear. Be good. Atlas made a low sound. Emma laughed through tears. You've never listened to that before. She stood. Dominic took one step closer, then stopped himself. Where are you staying? With a woman Noah knows. She rents rooms near the clinic. I want Marcus to inspect it. Emma almost objected, then nodded. Once. Dominic looked as though he wanted to say more. Emma opened the car door. Goodbye, Dominic. He did not say goodbye. He only watched her drive away. For the first mile, Emma could barely see through the tears. She pulled over near the lake, turned off the engine, and cried until her chest hurt. Then she wiped her face, started the car, and kept driving. The room near Noah's clinic was smaller than the Russo cottage, much smaller. One bedroom on the second floor of a brick house owned by a retired nurse named Margaret Ellis. The floor creaked. The radiator clanked. The bathroom was shared. Emma loved it immediately. Not because it was beautiful, because she had chosen it. Marcus inspected the building once. He recommended better locks. Margaret told him she had lived in Chicago for 63 years and did not need a Mafia security officer to explain locks. Marcus quietly installed one anyway. Emma paid Margaret rent from her own account. The first week was difficult. She missed Atlas so badly that some mornings she woke expecting to hear his nails on the floor. She missed the cottage fireplace, Mrs. Keller's dry humor, Ben making coffee too strong. She missed Dominic most when she was angry with him. That was the worst part. Love had not disappeared because she left. It simply had nowhere comfortable to go. She increased her hours at the clinic. Noah did not ask questions during the first few days. He gave her work. That helped. A frightened rescue named Molly snapped when technicians tried to examine her ears. Emma sat on the floor and waited. Molly growled. Emma looked away. The dog eventually came closer. Emma noticed the head tilt, the constant scratching. She asked Noah to check for infection. The ear canal was badly inflamed. Another dog, an elderly German shepherd named Bear, refused to cross the clinic floor. A technician called him stubborn. Emma placed 2 rubber mats across the tile. Bear walked over them immediately. Noah looked at her. Emma shrugged. Slippery floor. You saw that in 3 seconds, he told me. Noah smiled. Dogs don't talk. They do. People just prefer words. She studied late at night. Anatomy, joint movement, pain response, behavioral stress signals. She failed one practice exam. For nearly 10 minutes she stared at the score. Ryan's voice tried to return. You're not good at school. You always quit things. Emma closed the laptop, made coffee, opened it again. She took the test a second time, then a third. She passed. One afternoon, Noah found her sitting on the floor beside a large mastiff recovering from spinal surgery. The dog had refused to move for anyone else. With Emma, he had taken 4 steps. Noah leaned against the doorframe. You know what you do differently? Emma looked up. I spend too much time on the floor. You ask what pain is trying to say. Emma looked at the mastiff. The words stayed with her. Back in Lake Forest, Atlas stopped sleeping in Dominic's room. Every night he walked to Emma's cottage. The cottage was empty. Dominic had ordered that nothing inside be changed. Her books remained where she left them. Her old mug stayed beside the sink. The Van Fun jar sat on the counter. Atlas slept on the porch. Dominic found him there most mornings. The first time Dominic brought a leash, Atlas refused to move. Dominic almost gave the command again, then stopped. He sat on the porch. Atlas looked at him. Dominic said, "I know." The dog placed his head on the boards. Dominic remained there until Atlas stood on his own. Marcus found him one evening in the kitchen staring at his phone. "You could call her." Dominic did not look up. "She knows my number. That has never stopped you from calling anyone before." Dominic put the phone down. She asked for space. Marcus watched him. "You think she'll come back?" Dominic looked through the kitchen window toward the cottage. "I think that is her decision." Marcus was quiet. Then he nodded once. A week later, Dominic sent Emma a message. "The Marlowe threat has been contained. The man who took the photograph has been identified. You are not being followed." Emma stared at the screen. No demand, no request, no emotional argument. She typed, "Thank you for telling me." Dominic responded, "You're welcome." That was all. Another week passed. Then Atlas's hip is improving. Brooke says the new medication is working. Emma smiled despite herself. She typed, "Is he using the ramp sometimes?" That means no. "Yes." Emma laughed. She did not respond again. Dominic did not force the conversation. He sent no photographs, no stories about Atlas refusing food, no reminders about the cottage, no flowers, no money, no gifts. Emma noticed every absence. By late February, she had saved enough to pay the deposit on the first stage of her certification. She placed the receipt inside an envelope and kept it in her desk drawer. It was not a dramatic achievement. Nobody applauded. No one knew except Noah. Emma stared at the receipt for a long time. Then she whispered mine, the same word she had spoken in the cottage months earlier. This time it meant more. On a cold Tuesday morning, a delivery truck arrived at the Russo estate. The driver forgot to secure the secondary gate. It remained open less than 2 minutes. Atlas saw it. By the time the guard noticed, the dog was gone. Dominic was in his office when Marcus entered. He did not knock. "Atlas is missing." Dominic stood instantly. "What East Gate? Delivery error. How long? 7 minutes." Dominic grabbed his coat. Within 10 minutes, 3 vehicles were searching the roads around Lake Forest. Cameras were checked. Local veterinary offices were called. Dominic drove himself. He knew Atlas was older. His hip still hurt. The temperature was below freezing. After an hour, there was no sign of him. After 2, Dominic's hands were locked around the steering wheel. Marcus called. "We found him." Dominic pulled to the side of the road, where Marcus gave him the address. Dominic stared through the windshield. 9 miles. Almost 9 miles from the estate. Emma's address. By the time Dominic arrived, Atlas was lying on the front steps of Margaret Ellis's house. Emma sat beside him wrapped in a coat. Her hair was pulled back carelessly. Her face was red from the cold. Atlas's head rested in her lap. Dominic stopped beside the sidewalk. For a moment, Emma did not see him. She was checking Atlas's paws, talking softly to him. Dominic watched. Everything inside him wanted to cross the distance immediately, to take Atlas home, to touch Emma, to ask her to come back. Instead, he stayed where he was. Emma finally looked up. Their eyes met. Neither spoke. Dominic walked toward the steps. Atlas lifted his head. His tail struck the porch once. Dominic reached the bottom step. Emma stood. The front door behind her was open. Warm light spilled onto the porch. Dominic looked at the doorway, then at Emma. He did not move closer. "May I come in?" Emma held his gaze. For several seconds she said nothing. Then she stepped aside. "Yes." Dominic climbed the steps only after she moved. Atlas rose slowly and followed them inside. Margaret Ellis looked up from the kitchen table when Dominic stepped inside. She was a small woman with silver hair, reading glasses balanced low on her nose, and the expression of someone who had spent 63 years in Chicago learning exactly how unimpressed she intended to be by powerful men. Atlas entered first. Dominic followed. Margaret looked at Emma. Emma closed the door. "Yes." Margaret looked Dominic up and down. "You look expensive." Dominic paused. Emma covered a smile. Margaret returned to her newspaper. Coffee is fresh. Dominic glanced at Emma. Emma whispered, "That means she likes you. I'm afraid to ask what happens when she doesn't." Margaret turned a page. "You should be." Emma laughed. The sound hit Dominic harder than he expected. He had missed it, not the polite laugh she used at the estate. This one, the real one. Atlas limped toward the living room rug and collapsed with a tired groan. Emma immediately followed him. His paws are irritated. Dominic crouched several feet away. He walked almost 9 miles. "I know." Emma touched one of Atlas's pads carefully. No cuts, just sore. Dominic watched her. The room felt impossibly small after months inside the Russo estate. Old furniture, a radiator knocking against the wall, a bookshelf leaning slightly to one side. None of it seemed to bother Emma. She looked more settled here than she ever had in his mansion. That realization hurt. Emma glanced at him. "You can sit." Dominic remained standing. "I don't know how long I'm welcome." Emma's hand stopped on Atlas's paw. There had been a time when Dominic would have entered any room as though permission followed him automatically. Now he waited, even after she had allowed him through the door. Emma pointed towards the chair across from her. "Sit." Dominic did. For a while they spoke only about Atlas, his medication, his hip, how he had escaped. Whether the cold had worsened the joint. Safe subjects, subjects with 4 legs and no history between them. Finally, Emma said, "Why didn't you tell me he was doing this?" Dominic looked at her. "Doing what? Waiting at the cottage?" He was quiet. "You knew Mrs. Keller called me once." Dominic looked toward Atlas. "I told her not to." "Why? Because you asked for space." Emma studied him. "That didn't stop you before." "No." The answer came without defense. Emma looked down. Dominic continued, "I thought about sending you pictures. I'm sure you did. I thought you might come back if you saw him." Emma's jaw tightened slightly. Dominic noticed. "That is why I didn't." Emma lifted her eyes. Dominic leaned forward, forearms resting against his knees. "I used to believe that if my reason was good enough, the way I got what I wanted did not matter." Emma said nothing. "I believed that protecting you gave me the right to make decisions you might not make for yourself." His voice remained steady. No performance, no desperation, just words he had clearly repeated to himself many times before speaking them aloud. "I was wrong." Emma's eyes filled. She looked away. Dominic did not reach for her. "That mattered too." He continued, "You showed me the first day with Atlas." Emma looked back. "You left the door open." His eyes moved toward the dog. "You let him decide if he wanted to enter." Emma swallowed. Dominic's voice lowered. "I closed yours." Silence filled the room. The radiator clicked. Margaret turned another page in the kitchen. Atlas breathed slowly between them. Emma finally asked, "Are you apologizing because you want me back?" Dominic held her gaze. "I want you back." She looked away. "But that is not why I'm apologizing." Emma's eyes closed for 1 second. Dominic continued, "You should have had a choice whether you came back or not. I took that from you." He paused. "I'm sorry." Emma wiped beneath one eye. "I hated you for about 3 days." Dominic almost smiled. "Only 3. Then I got busy." That sounds more insulting. It should. A faint smile touched her mouth. Then disappeared. "I still love you." Dominic did not move. Emma laughed softly, almost bitterly. "I hate that too. I don't. No, I imagine you're very pleased. I am trying not to be." Emma looked at him. For the first time the tension broke. Only slightly, enough to breathe. Dominic looked toward Atlas. "I should take him home." Emma nodded. "He needs rest." Dominic stood. Atlas did not. Dominic looked down. Atlas. The dog remained stretched across the rug. Emma folded her arms, careful. Dominic gave her a look, then crouched beside Atlas instead. "We're leaving." Atlas opened one eye. Dominic sighed. Emma smiled. Strong negotiation. "I hate this dog." Atlas's tail moved once. Dominic looked toward Emma. She was smiling at him, not forgiving him. Not yet. But smiling, he stood. "I'll give him 10 minutes." Emma nodded. 10 minutes became 30. Then Dominic left with Atlas. He asked for nothing. Emma stood in the doorway and watched the black car disappear down the street. Margaret appeared behind her. "That man looks like trouble." Emma kept watching the empty road. "He is?" Margaret sipped her coffee. "You going back?" Emma shook her head. "I don't know." "Good." Emma turned. "Good." Margaret shrugged. "If you knew 5 minutes after he walked in, I'd worry." Then she went back inside. Emma stayed at the door a little longer. 3 days passed. Dominic did not call. On the 4th day, he sent one message. Atlas slept through the night. Emma replied, "Good, nothing else." Another week passed. Emma went to work, studied, paid rent, burned dinner twice, passed another certification exam. Her life continued. That was important. One evening she found herself staring at Dominic's name in her phone. She did not call. The next morning she did. He answered on the first ring. "Emma." She could hear the surprise beneath the calm voice. "Are you free Saturday?" "Yes, you don't know what time." "I'm free Saturday." Emma smiled despite herself. "Lunch? Where?" She named a diner halfway between the clinic and Lake Forest. Dominic paused. "You want me to meet you at a diner?" "Yes. Does it have actual food? You own 3 restaurants. You'll survive." "I own 4. Emma rolled her eyes. "Saturday. 1. I'll be there." Dominic arrived 12 minutes early. Of course he did. No bodyguards entered with him. Emma noticed one vehicle across the street. Dominic noticed her noticing. "Marcus refuses to let me travel alone." Emma sat down. "I didn't ask you to." Dominic nodded. "I know. That was new." They ordered coffee. Emma placed a folder on the table. Dominic looked at it. "What is that, terms?" His eyebrows lifted. Emma opened the folder. "If I come back to Lake Forest, I am not returning as household staff." "Agreed." "I finished my certification." "Yes, I keep working with Noah." Dominic's mouth tightened. Emma stared at him. He exhaled. "Yes." She almost smiled. "If I live in the cottage, I want an actual lease." Dominic frowned. "You want to pay rent on property I own?" "Yes, that is ridiculous." Emma started closing the folder. Dominic put his hand on it. "Fine." She looked at him. "A real lease?" "Yes. With a real amount." I said yes. You sounded hostile. "I am agreeing aggressively." Emma laughed. Dominic leaned back. She continued, "You do not enter without permission." "Yes." "You do not send staff inside unless there is an emergency." "Yes." "You do not decide what I should buy." Dominic looked offended. "I have excellent taste. That is irrelevant." "Fine. You do not buy me a business." His eyes narrowed. "I had not mentioned buying you a business. You thought about it." Dominic said nothing. Emma pointed at him. "Exactly." He looked down at the menu. "I withdraw the imaginary offer. If I ever need money from you, it will be a loan." "Emma, a written loan." Dominic looked as though the coffee had betrayed him. "You are exhausting. You knew that." "Yes." Emma's expression changed. The final condition mattered more than all the others. "If I say no, you do not decide. That fear makes my answer irrelevant." Dominic stopped moving. The noise of the diner seemed to fade around them. Emma held his gaze. "If there is danger, you tell me." "Yes." "You tell me what you know." "Yes." "You can argue." Dominic almost smiled. "I will. You can tell me I am making the worst decision you have ever seen. I expect that will happen. But if it is my decision, it stays mine." Dominic looked at her for a long time. Emma asked, "Can you actually live with that I am learning?" "That wasn't my question." He became completely serious. "Yes." Emma searched his face. Dominic did not look away. She closed the folder. "All right." His breathing changed. "Are you coming back?" Emma lifted her coffee. "To the cottage." Dominic smiled. It was not the controlled half-smile Emma had become accustomed to. It was immediate, almost boyish. She stared at him. "Do that again." "What, that?" His expression vanished instantly. "I have no idea what you mean." "Yes, you do." "No." Emma laughed. 2 weeks later she moved back to Lake Forest, not to the mansion, to the cottage. Her name appeared on a lease prepared by a very confused Russo attorney. Emma paid rent on the 1st of every month. Dominic complained every time the payment reached his account. Emma continued sending it. The cottage changed slowly. More books, more dog equipment, an anatomy poster near the kitchen table, certification notes stacked beside the couch. Atlas spent most evenings there, so did Dominic. But Dominic knocked. Every time. Even when Emma's car was outside. Even when he could see her through the window. One Thursday evening, he arrived holding 2 paper bags. Emma opened the door. "Yes, I brought dinner. Did I invite you?" Dominic stared at her. Emma kept her face serious. "No." Dominic nodded. "All right." He turned. Emma started laughing. "Dominic." He stopped. "Come inside." He looked back. "You are enjoying this. Immensely." He entered. Another night he knocked and Emma opened the door wearing glasses surrounded by textbooks. "Not tonight." Dominic looked past her. "You've eaten, yes. Do you need anything, no?" He nodded. "Good night." Then he left. Emma stood in the doorway after he was gone. For some reason that night meant more than all the evenings he came inside. Spring arrived slowly. Atlas began walking farther. Emma finished the final stage of her certification. Noah shook her hand at the clinic. "You did it." Emma stared at the certificate. Her name, her work, her hours, her exams, hers. She cried in the supply room for 5 minutes, then blamed allergies. Noah did not believe her. By summer, she had saved enough to buy a used white van. It had 120,000 miles. A dent near the rear bumper. The air conditioning made a suspicious noise. Emma loved it. Dominic stood beside it in the cottage drive. "No." Emma looked at him. "What no?" She laughed. "You cannot say no to my van. I absolutely can. You don't own it. That is the problem." Dominic walked around the vehicle. "This thing is a mechanical cry for help. It passed inspection. By whom? A mechanic. I want his name. Dominic." He looked at the tires. "I can get you something safer." Emma crossed her arms. He opened his mouth, then stopped. Emma watched. Dominic closed his mouth, took a breath, then said, "Would you like me to get you something safer?" Emma smiled. "No." His jaw tightened. "All right. Was that painful extremely?" She kissed his cheek. "You're improving. I preferred myself before." "No, you didn't." Dominic considered that. "No." He looked at the van. "I still hate this thing." Emma painted a simple logo on the side. Carter Canine Recovery. Below it, in smaller letters, she added senior care mobility support and fear-sensitive handling. Her first clients came through Noah, then through referrals. An elderly Labrador who could no longer climb stairs. A rescue dog terrified of grooming tables. A German Shepherd recovering from surgery. Emma spent more time on floors than in chairs. She loved every minute. One afternoon, a woman brought in a massive mastiff named Duke. The dog had bitten 2 groomers. The owner kept the leash tight. "He needs discipline," she said. Emma watched Duke. The dog shifted his weight. Right side, then left. His rear leg trembled. Emma's expression changed. "Has anyone checked his hips?" The woman frowned. "He's aggressive. That isn't what I asked." Dominic was standing near the clinic entrance with Atlas. He had arrived to bring Emma lunch. He remained silent. Emma crouched several feet from Duke. The mastiff growled. She stopped, waited. The owner pulled the leash. Emma immediately said, "Please loosen that. He might bite. Then let me give him enough room that biting doesn't feel like his only option." The woman hesitated, then loosened the leash. Duke stopped pulling. Emma placed her hand on the floor. No demand, no command, just an offer. After several minutes, Duke stepped toward her. He sniffed her fingers. Emma smiled softly. "There you are." Dominic watched from the doorway. Atlas sat beside him. For a second the scene seemed impossible. Years collapsed. Water on marble. A frightened Cane Corso. A woman everyone had called clumsy sitting on the floor while powerful people waited for her to fail. Emma looked over and caught Dominic staring. "What nothing? That is never true." Dominic glanced at Duke. "You were right about him. I haven't examined him. You know what I mean." Emma looked back at the mastiff. Yes. That evening, Emma and Dominic sat on the cottage porch. Lake Michigan was dark beyond the trees. Summer insects moved through the grass. Atlas slept between their chairs. Emma rested her feet against the porch rail. Dominic looked at the dog. "Do you ever think about the first bath?" Emma laughed. You mean the day I dumped 2 buckets of water on the most terrifying animal I had ever seen? He was not terrifying. Emma looked at him. He put a groomer in the hospital. Allegedly. You told me that. I may have exaggerated. Emma stared. Dominic smiled. She shook her head. You are impossible. Atlas opened one eye. Emma scratched behind his ear. Dominic looked down. He disobeyed me for the first time that night. Emma smiled. Maybe he wasn't disobeying. What was he doing? She looked at Atlas. Choosing. Dominic was quiet. Then he looked at her. And you, Emma, knew exactly what he meant. The mansion stood behind the trees. The cottage door was unlocked behind her. Her van waited in the drive. Her certification hung inside above the desk. Nothing kept her there. No contract she could not end. No money she could not earn. No man deciding that love required surrender. Emma reached for Dominic's hand. I'm still choosing. His fingers closed around hers. Not tightly. Just enough. Atlas lifted his head. Dominic looked at him. What? The dog stared. Emma laughed softly. He's checking you. For what? To make sure you remember the rules. Dominic looked toward Emma, then toward the cottage door. I remember. Atlas lowered his head again. A few minutes later, Dominic stood. Emma remained in her chair. He looked toward the door, then at her. May I stay tonight? Emma smiled. Yes. Dominic followed her toward the cottage. Atlas rose and walked behind them. Emma entered first. Dominic waited at the threshold until she looked back. She held the door open. Only then did he step inside.